Hello everyone! I'm excited to say that I finally made the tutorial for the strawberry cardigan. I got so many comments asking me to make this tutorial after I made that TikTok, so I couldn't disappoint you guys. I made this plain white cardigan for the tutorial, but I show you how to make and attach the strawberries for those wondering. Let's get into this. For this project, you'll need a knitting machine. I used the Centro, medium weight color of choice for your cardigan, and if you're going to make strawberries, medium weight red yarn, medium weight green yarn, and white embroidery thread. You'll also need buttons, a 5mm hook, a 3.5mm hook, a sewing needle, a pair of scissors, and some polyfill. To begin your project, drop your yarn into the center of the machine and loop underneath the first needle. You're then going to slowly crank the handle and weave in and out of all the needles. You'll know you did this correctly when you end up behind the very last needle, which is white. To make sure you have the correct tension, be sure to hook the yarn underneath the tooth between the first and last needle. Now feed the yarn into the tension tool, and I put it on medium. Your machine is now ready to go, and now you're just going to rotate the handle in the forward direction, and you're going to do this for 66 rows per sleeve. When you're done, you're going to release the yarn from the tension tool, and before we start taking it off the machine, we're going to make sure that the very last needle gets fed through, like so. We're now going to cut a long tail and thread a sewing needle. We're going to slowly crank the handle so that it starts to release these loops, but we're going to be careful not to drop them. It's very important. And we're going to carefully slide our needle under these loops and thread it with the long tail. And you're just going to carefully do this all the way around. Now that our sleeve is off the machine, we're now going to repeat this process over again so that we have two. Making panels is a bit different from tubes, but I do like to keep it on tube setting for panels. But we're going to start it the exact same way as a tube, where we weave in and out of the needles, but we're going to stop when we hit the 40th needle. Once you reach the 40th needle, you're going to want to put it underneath the tooth after the needle to give it the correct tension. You're then going to feed it through the slot and put it on medium tension, just like on tube. And now we're going to be winding the handle backwards to start our first row. Once you're back at the first needle, you're going to keep rotating till it loops underneath that tooth between the first and last needle, again for the correct tension. Then you're going to crank the handle forward to start making the second row. You're going to repeat this process for a total of 91 rows. You're then going to cut a long tail for sewing and take it off the machine the same way that we did with the sleeves. Now that your first back panel is complete, we're going to repeat this process one more time to give us a total of 2. You're going to start the front panels the same way as the back panels by weaving in and out of the needles, and we're going to stop once again at the 40th needle. Remember again to loop it underneath that tooth after the 40th needle to create the correct tension, and then we're going to feed it into the tension tool. We're now going to make 46 rows, and when that's complete, I'll meet you back here to show you what to do next. At the start of the 47th row, we're now going to start decreasing to create the front of the cardigan. So to do that, we're going to take the yarn out of the tension tool and crank the handle so that the last needle raises up. We're then going to manually take it off the needle, but be careful not to lose that loop. We're then going to rotate the handle a little bit more so that the next needle raises up. Then we're going to put the loop from the other needle onto this needle. Remember to loop it underneath the tooth before feeding it into the tension slot. We're then going to continue the row like normal, and we're going to start making decreases every 4th row. So since this is the 47th row, our next decrease will be on the 51st row, then the 55th row, and so on and so forth. You're once again going to make a total of 91 rows, and when you're done, your panel should look something like this. You're going to make the second panel the same way, but this time your decrease will start on the 46th row. This is so that the slant is on the opposite side. You're going to continue doing decreases every 4th row, so if you do it on the 46th, it'll be the 50th, and then the 54th, and so on. So we're going to begin with our 2 back panels facing the correct side up. And we're going to take one of the tails from the panels and thread our needle. We're then going to go into the opposite panel and go through the top corner of that panel. We're then going to locate these bars from the first row of the panel, and we're going to take our needle and go underneath the first one. We're then going to find the first bar of the other panel and take our needle underneath that one. Then on the other panel, we're going to go underneath the second bar and then the second bar of the other panel. And it should create this ladder type design. And when you pull the tail, it creates a really beautiful seam. We're going to do this all the way down both panels. In the end, you should end up with something like this. For the next part, we're going to place our front panels on top of the back panels like this, and we're going to be sewing the top together. So you're going to line up the outer edges to the outer edge of the back panels and sew across both sides. You're going to be sewing with the same technique, but this time the bars will be horizontal, but we'll still be doing it the exact same way. The next step will be taking the sleeves, and we're going to begin by taking our tail and going through the seam of the panels. Then we're going to be attaching the front of the cardigan to the front side of the sleeve. For this part, you'll only be worrying about going from the top of the shoulder to the armpit area. And when you get to that, I will show you what to do next. Okay, so now we have half the sleeve sewed down. So for this next part, we're going to be cutting an extra long tail. You'll need an extra long tail, like at least 2 feet. And we're going to loop the end like this. And then we're going to take a crochet hook and find a loop underneath the center seam of the 2 panels. We're going to pull up a loop and then pull the 2 tails through to create a knot. We're then going to thread our needle, and now we're going to sew the back side of the sleeve to the back panel of the cardigan. When you get down to the armpit area, I will show you what to do next. Okay, so now the sleeve is completely attached, and all that's left to do is to sew the two panels together. So that's why the tail was extra long. So we're going to make sure that these sides are even, and we're just going to sew all the way down. We're going to start making the cuffs on the sleeves first, and to do that, take your yarn color of choice and make a slip knot. We're then going to take a 5mm hook and insert our hook into the back side of the sleeve, and then make a slip stitch. We're then going to go all the way around the sleeve, making single crochet decreases. I'm also simultaneously crocheting over the tail, so it's one less thing I have to weave in later. When you reach the beginning again, I stuck my hook into the first stitch and made a slip stitch. I'm now going to chain 14. And in the third chain from my hook, I'm going to yarn over and make a half double crochet. I'm also going to make a half double crochet all the way down the line. When I come to the beginning again, I'm going to go into the next stitch and make a slip stitch. I'm then going to go into the very next one also and make another slip stitch. You're going to want to turn your work, and in the back loop only, make another row of half double crochets. Going to chain 2, turn your work, and in the back loop only, you're going to do another row of half double crochets. You're again going to go into the next 2 stitches and make a slip stitch. And we're just going to keep repeating this process all the way around the cuff. When you reach the end, we're going to chain 1 and go into the back loop only of our row, and also insert our hook into the opposite side of the chain from the beginning of the whole cuff. We're then going to make a slip stitch, and we're just going to make slip stitches all the way down to connect the cuff together. When we reach the end, I just cut off a tail and I inserted my hook into the sleeve and made one final slip stitch. And this is what you should end up with. To start the cardigan edging, we're going to start in the bottom right corner. We're going to make a slip knot and make a slip stitch into that bottom corner. We're then going to chain 1 and work along the whole bottom edge of the cardigan. What we're going to do is we're going to, like the cuffs, make single crochet decreases along the whole bottom edge. I'm also going to be going over my little tail there so I don't have to weave it in. And you're just going to go around the whole bottom edge like I said, and when you get to the bottom left corner, I will tell you what to do from there. Okay, so now that I'm done with the bottom, I'm now going to start making the edging for the collar front area. And to do that, we're going to chain 1 and make a single crochet into the same stitch, and doing this makes the corners sharper. I also have this tail here, and I'm going to be crocheting over any and all tails I come across going around this edge. So what we're going to do is just make a single crochet around the whole front area, no decreases. And you're just going to do this all the way around, and when you reach the bottom right corner again, I will tell you what to do from there. So from here, we're actually going to be going back around the front edge again. And to do that, we are going to chain 7. And in the second chain from our hook, we're going to make a single crochet as well as single crochet all the way down. Just like our cuffs, we're going to be making a slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Skip those, of course, and make our single crochets in the back loop only across the row again for a total of 6 stitches. Then we're going to chain 1 again and repeat this process only to the halfway point, and I will show you what to do from there.
So I'm getting ready to make the trim on this side of the cardigan. But before I do, I have to sew on the buttons because I'm going to have to make buttonholes on this side. So for my cardigans, I like to have 3 buttons. You can, do whatever you want. But I like to put my buttons about 5.5 to 6 inches apart. And so I like 3 buttons. The only reason I don't have the 3rd button is because, for context, on my strawberry cardigan, the 3rd button goes on the bottom edge trim, so we'll add that when we get to the bottom edge. So for now, I'm just going to sew on my 2 buttons, and then I will show you how to make the buttonholes when we come down on this side.
So to sew on the buttons, I cut off a yarn piece about 1 foot long, and I threaded my needle. And all I'm going to do is go through underneath the cardigan. And then I'll go through the second buttonhole. Now repeat this for a second time. Once I do that, I'm going to tie a double knot behind the button. Trim the tail, and I will weave these in later. And I'm just going to repeat the process for the second button. So I've come to the point where I'm about to make my first buttonhole. And for me, what I did was I made 2 single crochets in the back loop only. And then I chain 2 and skip 2 stitches, and then make 2 single crochets in the remaining stitches. For me, that fit my 1-inch in diameter buttons, but for you it might be different, so adjust accordingly. Now you're just going to keep making that front edge and make a buttonhole when one's needed, and I'll meet you back when that's done. So now that the front edge is complete, it's now time to finish the bottom edge. So to do that, we are going to chain 10. We're now going to single crochet across, giving us 9 total stitches. We're going to do 2 slip stitches like we have been in the next 2 stitches. Turn our work, and 9 single crochets in the back loop only. We're now going to chain 1, and for this 3rd row we're going to create our last buttonhole. So I decided to do 4 single crochets in the back loop only. And then we're going to chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, and in the next 3 stitches, do a single crochet in the back loop only. course, do our 2 slip stitches in the next 2 stitches. With the buttonhole now complete, there's nothing more to do but to just finish the edge and slap on another button when you're done. So to start your strawberries, take some red yarn and a 3.5 hook. I don't know why I said 2.75, but you're going to want to make a slip stitch and chain 3. Now single crochet across, giving you 2 stitches, and then you're going to chain 1. Now you're going to increase into the first stitch and single crochet into the second, giving you 3. Chain 1, increase into the first stitch, and single crochet into the next 2, and that will give you 4 stitches. Chain 1, increase into the first stitch, and single crochet into the next 3 stitches, giving you 5 stitches. Keep repeating this until you have 9 stitches total. You're going to start this next row by not chaining 1. You're just going to turn your work right away, and then you're going to single crochet across, and this will give you 8 stitches. Once again, turn your work without chaining and single crochet across, giving you 7 stitches. Now we're going to create a border for our strawberry. So we're going to be coming down the edge here. So we're going to chain 1. And then down this side edge, we're going to single crochet 9 stitches. I then put 2 single crochets into the bottom edge, and for the last edge, I once again do 9 single crochets while also single crocheting over that little tail there. To finish off, I'm going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, and then cut off a long tail for sewing. To make the leaves, take your green yarn and a 3.5 hook, and you're going to start by chaining 5. Now you're going to turn your work and make slip stitches all the way down for a total of 4. Now you're going to once again chain 5, turn your work and make 4 slip stitches. And you are going to repeat this 2 more times for a total of 4 leaves. So once you have the leaves done, we're going to fasten off with a slip stitch and a long tail for sewing. And then we're going to sew the leaves onto the strawberry. Next, I continued to sew down the leaves so I could shape them the way I wanted them to look. Just like that. And to finish off the strawberry, I just did some embroidery thread and some random seed shapes, and I tied a knot at the beginning and end so that it would stay secure. Now, I'm not going to remake a strawberry cardigan, but I will show you what I did with my pink one. When I sewed it on, I did add a little polyfill so that they would look 3D. And I put 4 on each front panel. And I tried to mirror them. And then I did 3 on each sleeve. So for a total of 14 strawberries. So that's the whole pattern. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. It was the most in-depth video I've made thus far. So if you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching.